Mark Carney wins historic election in Canada. We will never be the 51st state. In an extraordinary political comeback that has stunned the world, Canada's Liberal Party, once left for dead in the polls, has returned to power under the leadership of Prime Minister Mark Carney. His campaign, fueled by rising nationalism and anxiety over the increasingly aggressive posture of U.S. President Donald Trump, culminated in a dramatic election night victory. Carney, a former governor of both the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England, delivered a fiery and impassioned speech after the results were called, directly confronting the rhetoric and threats from the American president. "America wants our land, our resources, our water, our country. Never," Carney declared. "These are not idle threats. President Trump is trying to break us so that America can own us. That will never, ever happen." His words reverberated across a country shaken by months of economic tension, trade warfare, and what many perceived as outright hostility from the Trump White House. The Liberal victory was not just a political win, it was widely viewed as a referendum on Canadian sovereignty in the face of unprecedented foreign pressure. A threat from the South, President Trump's rhetoric toward Canada during the first 100 days of his second term took on a new level of intensity. In a series of rallies and interviews, Trump openly mocked Canada's independence, proposing that the country should become America's 51st state. "Canada only works as a state," Trump said during a March rally in Ohio. "If you look at a map, they drew an artificial line right through it. We don't need anything they have if it's made in Canada. We'll have the jobs. That's why Canada should be a 51st state." He even referred to former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau as Governor Trudeau, further fueling outrage north of the border. Carney used these comments as the centerpiece of his campaign, transforming what had been a disorganized and flailing Liberal effort into a national movement. Framing the election as a hinge moment in history, he called on Canadians to reject the idea of dependency on the United States and instead look inward and outward for new paths forward. "Our old relationship with the United States, a relationship based on steadily increasing integration, is over," Carney said. "The system of open global trade anchored by the U.S., a system that Canada has relied on since the Second World War, is over. The Trump factor and the Liberal revival." The effect of Trump's statements was seismic. According to Canadian and American political analysts, Trump may have inadvertently resurrected Carney's political fortunes. Republican Congressman Don Bacon, speaking to Politico, put it bluntly, "The Liberals in Canada were losing big until our president kept mocking Canadians, our neighbors, and close friends. He made Canadian Liberals great again." The race had been expected to favor Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, whose brand of politics drew comparisons to Trump. But in a dramatic turn of events, not only did the Liberals outperform expectations across the country, Poilievre himself failed to win re-election in his own Ottawa area riding. Though the popular vote was close and final seat counts were still coming in as of Tuesday morning, projections showed the Liberals with the strongest path to form government. Whether Carney's party can achieve a full majority remains uncertain, but a minority government backed by the left-leaning New Democratic Party is likely. Mike Carney's strategy: experience over charisma. Carney, a Harvard and Oxford-educated economist and banker, was not initially seen as a charismatic political figure. Critics often called him technocratic, and his lack of traditional political flair had some Liberals doubting whether he could inspire a comeback. But what Carney lacked in populist appeal, he made up for with gravitas. In an election shaped by threats to Canada's autonomy, Carney's resume, decades of managing economic crises and negotiating with global powers, offered precisely the kind of calm, credible leadership many voters sought. "When I sit down with President Trump, it will be to discuss the future economic and security relationship between two sovereign nations," Carney said. "And it will be with full knowledge that we have many, many other options than the United States to build prosperity for all Canadians." His campaign messaging emphasized unity across language, region, and class. "No matter where you live, no matter what language you speak, no matter how you voted, I will always do my best to represent everyone who calls Canada home." Political earthquake with global ripples. Political analysts have described the Liberal turnaround as one of the fastest and most significant in modern democratic history. Just months ago, the party was polling 20 to 25 points behind the Conservatives. Now it is poised to form the government and reshape Canada's political and economic relationship with the U.S. professor Michael Keating Emeritus professor of politics at the University of Aberdeen, commented, "I've never seen such a quick and massive turnaround in such a short period of time in any democratic system." Keating emphasized that Canadians don't dislike Americans, but they are fiercely protective of their distinct identity. That kind of language from Trump about annexation and calling Trudeau a governor was always going to produce a reaction, and Carney was the most effective at channeling that into a political message. What lies ahead now begins the hard part. Carney faces a deeply divided electorate and the monumental task of redefining Canada's foreign and economic policy in a world where the U.S. can no longer be counted on as a stable or friendly partner. With Canada's economy still heavily reliant on trade with the U.S., more than 85% of Canadian exports head south. Carney must balance defiance with pragmatism. He has promised to diversify trade ties, reinvest in domestic industries, and shield Canadians from further economic shocks. But he has also warned of sacrifice. "This will not be easy," Carney said, "but we are not alone. We have friends and allies around the world, and we will chart a new course, one that is determined by Canadians for Canadians." As the dust settles on one of the most dramatic elections in Canadian history, one thing is clear. Canada has chosen to assert itself, not as a client state of its southern neighbor, but as a sovereign nation prepared to defend its place in the world.